Hey everybody, it's Alex from Capital Deals Bike Shop. I'm here today to do my bike talk program, and I have a special one today for you. And we're talking about kind of bicycles for kids from zero on up. And there's so many different options out there now between balance bikes and pedal bikes and training wheels. I want to take a minute to give you an idea of what you should use, and if you want, like, what I chose to get the best results. First, I'm going to start with these balance bikes. These balance bikes are great because they're super light. They're very simple, and they teach the child one thing, and that's balance. That's why they're called balance bikes. And then they can get on this. You'll see, and most of you probably already have it, and you've seen them. I mean, they've been in the market for quite a while now. But they focus on the balance part of it. You shouldn't teach your child anything else until they learn how to balance really well. And the other part is, I think the best age for these is like right when you can walk, between 1, 2, and 3. By the time 4, they should be really good with balancing. And you'll know when they're really good at balancing because they'll be rubbing their toe right here to slow down, okay? You're like, oh God, they're going so fast and they're cruising along, they lift their feet up and they can balance. And then how they stop themselves is they skid their feet, okay? That's when they start skidding their feet, that's when you want to start introducing them to a brake. So there's 2 types of brakes on kids' bikes. There's the traditional coaster brake where you pedal backwards like this and it slows down. And then like this bike doesn't have any hand brakes, okay? There's a lot more to this in terms of why these bikes are created that I have theories about, but I'll leave that for a different show. But today's show, we're talking about these handbrakes here. So, and you look, these levers are small, they're brakes. It's literally a small bike, okay? Literally a small bike with pedals. It's the same size as this too. They're 12 inches. And so if your child's, this is for that early learner. This is for that child that got this at 1, 2, or 3, used it a lot, loved it. It's going to transition to this at like 3.5 or 4. Now, let's say if you didn't get one of your children one of these, they didn't learn how to balance at 2, 3, or 4. Now you have to get a bigger one. We have a 16-inch one. Those are typically for, I don't know if this works, between 5 and 7-year-olds. Okay? So now we have bikes that are for 5 and 7-year-olds. This is the 16-inch. The 16-inch looks like this. Okay. So it's kind of like if you start out early, you're gonna get the small one, and then they're gonna transition to the big one. But let's say you missed it, whatever. You're like, oh, we're gonna buy this. We're gonna get something different, and then they still don't know how to ride at like 3 or between. If they still don't know how to ride a bicycle and balance on it at 5 or 7, I recommend the 16, okay? And then even if you, let's just say you missed this whole category too, you haven't introduced cycling to this 7-year-old here, and now this 7-year-old doesn't know how to ride a pedal bike without training wheels, I would introduce them into this, which is this here, okay? It's the same principle, but it's learn to balance first. If you don't learn how to balance first, then pedaling is dangerous and there's no use for braking, or I don't know if that means it. You have to learn balance first. Second is learn how to brake, and then third is learn how to accelerate. You don't, like, if I taught you how to drive a car right now, I'd be like, hey brother, the brake is right here, and once you get going, you're gonna like stop. All right, now what do we got? So now that kid is riding a balance bike really good. It's the same flow. Learn how to balance, teach them how to brake, and then acceleration. And when we sell these bikes to parents, my recommendation is take the pedals off for the first week, actually. And then so the kid is transitioning from a bike with just pushing their feet, okay? And now they're pushing with their feet, and you know they can balance really well because their shoes are starting to wear out in weird ways. Okay, then basically you introduce something like this without pedals. I take the pedals off like for the first week is what I recommend. And then what happens is the child is going to come up to this bike. They're going to be like, what are these brakes? And then they're going to figure this out. That's the next step of the learning curve. Figure out what these brakes do. And you'll see your child will start to use these brakes instead of their feet. And then what happens is that, and then when they get that really good, like you're like, oh dude, look at that little guy or that little girl. She's scooting around and she can stop now with her hands. And it doesn't do it with her feet anymore. And then if they can scoot around, they can stop. That following week, add these to it, and you will never look back. That kid will be riding a bicycle at like this little teeny tiny bicycle. It's the cutest thing in the whole entire world. And yeah, I mean, okay, so this bike is special. These Clearly bikes are special because they're miniaturized handbrakes, okay? A lot of bikes out there, these are a little bit more expensive too for that reason. So when you see a bike here with a coaster brake where you backpedal to slow it down, these don't work well because even if you took okay, first things first, if you follow that method that I'm saying, balance bike to take these off, teach them the braking and then the acceleration, that child will never need training wheels. They already learned how to balance. But what I'm finding parents are doing is they'll introduce this, okay, and the kid is balancing really, really well. And then they go to the market and these bikes are flood. There's tons of these on the market. They're heavy, okay? And then they have these training wheels that is basically you're basically like, hey, you know how to balance now, but we're gonna put these things that restrict that balancing motion on it, okay? And then on top, we're gonna have this braking mechanism where you can never put your feet down for security. Because if you do, you can't brake. So that's why this is a better option. When I take the pedal off and I'm teaching that child how to brake here, they can still have their feet on the ground and slow this thing down. I notice this when the children are slowing down and they're coming into a tight turn where they're a little scared and they need to slow down. They can hit that brake first and put their foot down at the same time, right? And if you look at a coaster brake bicycle, they can't put their feet down and brake at the same time. They're pretty much rolling straight. And even the worst thing on these is if you put a child on this and they don't know how to brake, they roll down a hill and they can't put their feet are on here and they're rolling down a hill and they don't know how to brake. It's very dangerous. The handlebar flips like this and all that momentum goes just like that. Okay? When you have the Strider bike, their feet never leaves their feet never leave the ground. So and it's lighter weight, so there's huge. I mean, it's so we have all these different products in different sizes, and the reason why we have different sizes is if you start at 3 years or like 1, 2, or 3, then your first step is balance bike, 12-inch. And then you can move into 16-inch, okay? But again, let's just say that child didn't get a bike and they didn't do it, they got a tricycle or balance tricycle or something, and then they still don't know how to balance, then you're kind of starting off at this point versus starting at this point. I hope this gives you some information and I didn't ramble on too much, but we have all these great colorful bikes and we're here to get kids going this summer. Come and follow us and like us, and happy riding, guys. Get some.